Welcome to Drive Time Exchange. As rubber hits the road, hard talk meets great music. Monday to Thursday, 4 to 6 p.m. on Net Radio, taking you above and beyond.
You talk about a place where the people are carefree living. It is such a place of fun-loving, spraying and fetting. 'Tis the land where people don't care if Ash Wednesday fall on Good Friday. Man, they love to struggle in this happy-go-lucky way. It's Blokorama, Fetorama, and just now is Masorama. So the foreigner come for carnival, and he telling himself after he had a ball. Trinidad is nice, Trinidad is a paradise. It's the foreigner in La Trinity, the people have a carnival mentality. Trinidad is nice, Trinidad is a paradise. They are not serious, very few conscious, so I cannot agree with my own chorus. Trinidad is nice, Trinidad is a paradise. But I hear some people talking about Revolution Day, changes on the way.
So good day to you, everybody. Good day, Trinidad, Tobago, people in the Caribbean, and those who are streaming all around the globe on the www. As we welcome you to New Era TT Radio. This is the Drive Time Exchange with none other than our journalist extraordinaire, Mr. Tony Fraser. Tony, good afternoon to you. How are you doing?
I am good, Charlo, and thanks for the introduction. I like the calypso of Valentino. In a way, he's in, and the selection for the program this afternoon, I think, is most appropriate. What the Calypsonian was singing about, and incidentally, that's in the early 1980s, as that song goes back to. He's singing about disarray in the society and the lack of focus and all of that. And I don't know that we've changed too much since that period in time. But, that's a difficulty. We have a country to run, all of us being part of it, so that we continue. And the subject today, but before I give the subject, Sir Charles, maybe I plan to allow you to go through, because I've been getting questions about where the station can be heard, where it can be seen, etc., etc. Perhaps you can spend a minute or two, however long it takes, to go through the different formats which the station can be heard and seen on. So,
Okay.
your show.
Okay, thank you very much, Tony. So, people, you can, because we are internet radio, we are streaming, so you can put us in your browser, and you all you have to do is put in www.newerattradio.com. So, newerattradio.com, and that will bring you directly to our website, where you will be able to tune in all day, every day. You can also pick us up on Facebook and YouTube at New Era TT Radio. You will get us on those two platforms also. And for those who have their smart devices, they have their Alexa and all those other apps that they talk to, they can get us on TuneIn. Just look for New Era TT Radio. You will get us there also. So that is basically in a lot of spaces where you get us. And of course, you get the breakfast show on M&E TV in the morning between 6 and 8 a.m. And you get that on basically all the cable channels like Flow, Amplia, Digicel, Tricor. You will get the stream there in the morning period for the breakfast show.
Okay. So it's the program is spread quite widely around.
Yes. But once you put in New Era TT Radio, you will find us.
Okay.
Just
So
put it
get
on your
all of
browser
it.
anywhere. your phone, your laptop, your computer. Just type in New Era TT Radio, you will get us.
Okay, wonderful. So that we have heard, and maybe, not maybe, during the program, we can stop for a pause and allow you to spread the word about the station. It's a new station. It's a station that is managed, brought into being, and managed by Sir Charles. He's been in radio for a long, long time. Back in the superior days, right, Charlo?
Way back then.
Back then, Lord Superior and his radio station, and then Power 102 and other options. So Sir Charles is the man in charge of this operation, and there are some of us who are helping along, attempting to put this station on the map.
And doing a fantastic job, I must say, at that too.
Right, Chalo, and we it's important to know that the station is available in a whole range of platforms that you simply announced a moment ago. So there is no difficulty whatsoever in getting the station.
No, it's not.
Right. And the next step is to pitch to the advertisers. We are unashamedly
Yes,
pitching
yes.
to the advertisers because if there is no advertising dollars, then we don't exist, right, Charles?
That is it. Two things we need. We need people to listen, and we need advertisers to advertise.
And what Sir Charles has set out to do, a very noble effort. There aren't too many. Well, let me say, there are quite a number of radio stations. I lost count some time ago. Over 30, but not many of them are doing, public information, attempting to inform people about choices that they have to make and so on. And we are doing that right here on the New Era Radio as TT, sorry, as Charlo just said a moment ago. So, after all of that, we come to the basic of the program today. Listeners would know that some time ago we did a program on the Police Service Commission and the appointment selection of a police commissioner, which has been uh, clouded with difficulties over the period, and therefore we talked about it with a former chairman of the commission, that's Professor Ramesh Diosaran, and we also had a man called Gideon Dixon, who is the head of the what's it called, the Police Welfare Association, and they expressed their views about it. And we intend to continue along that line. And this afternoon, we are fortunate to have two persons with us. Mr. Nizam Mohammed, who himself is a former commissioner of police of the Police Service Commission, and no stranger to public life. Spent a few decades as a politician, representative. He was in the chair of the speaker at a critical point in time. And welcome to the program, sir. You need to put on yours. Right. Okay. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, and it's a pleasure to be on your program.
Okay, great.
Allow me to say hello to Sir Charles and wish him all the best in this endeavor that he's making.
Thank you very much, sir. Greatly appreciated.
Right. And one of the things I remember Nizam Mohammed about was something he did for the media, if I remember correctly. During his term as Speaker of the House, he opened up the Parliament for coverage, television coverage, etc. Is my memory working well, Nizam Mohammed?
Perfectly well. And that was a historic move that we had made. And
Yes.
I had the assistance of your good self and people like Jones Madeira.
Jones P. Yes.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
then that
yeah.
veteran journalist with The Guardian, John Babb.
John Babb,
John
yes.
Babb.
Today I'm spending a moment doing this because it's important. Today we see live television coverage of the sittings of the parliament, which is a vital thing. You elect people and you need to see how they perform in the parliament. And there was a time when we couldn't bring the cameras into the parliament, and Nizam Mohammed, as speaker, opened that door. I remember very well. I was at TTT at that point in time. Opened the door for the cameras to get into the Parliament chamber and to report what was being said and to carry some of the sessions live. As I remember it, we had to apply to say that we're going to cover the budget and those kinds of things, etc., etc. The point is that the scene was opened up, and that was very important. So we're going to have Nizam Mohammed talking about the Police Service Commission. He was chairman at one point in time. And we're also expecting Stephen Williams. Charles, I don't know if you've got him yet on the line.
No, I haven't seen him as yet.
So probably he's coming in at some point in time.
Yeah.
Stephen Williams has the unenviable record of serving as acting commissioner for about 6 years. Going from one government to the other and so on, and not knowing where his head is from his stool. I reminded him of that some time ago, and he said it wasn't a great experience for him. So he's going to tell us all about that. But let me start with Nizam Mohammed, as I said, a former chairman of the Police Service Commission. And for listeners, and Mr. Mohammed will tell our listeners and viewers exactly the kind of thing that the process that had to be gone through before a commissioner could be selected. At one point in time, it was done by the parliament, the whole parliament sitting, the House of Representatives, I believe, and then it changed to no, sorry, it's the other way around. It was the Prime Minister, and then it changed to the House of Representatives, which essentially meant the same thing. That the political leader of the ruling party would make a determination, and those who opposed them wouldn't dare say so. So let us hear, Mr. Mohammed, how this thing worked. What were your experiences like serving as chairman of the Police Service Commission?
I went into that chair in the year 2010, and in 2006, there was a change in the legislation with respect to the Police Service Commission. With the advent of independence in 1962, the service commissions were established, and they were intended to be independent bodies covering the police service, the judicial and legal service, the teaching service, the public service. And one of the reasons for that was to ensure that there would be justice and fair play in terms of filling vacancies and actually designing the structure of all these public entities to provide for efficiency and the best of service to the public. In 2006, the Parliament in that year interfered with the legislation as it related to the Police Service Commission. And
Mr. Mohammed, 1 second before you move on. I know you're a seasoned and experienced lawyer, and you used the word there just now, which I think has implications. So I'm asking you to explain it. You talked about interfered. I find that an interesting word coming from a lawyer. Lawyers don't use words carelessly. So you must mean something by that. Go ahead.
yes, they tampered with the law regarding the Police Service Commission, and they allowed for political interference with the operations of that commission. I do not wish to personalize our discussion, but it is interesting to note that from 2006, because of what happened regarding the Police Service Commission, the Prime Minister has the authority to summarily request the President to dismiss members of the Commission, including the Chairman of the Commission, so that that independence that was originally catered for is no longer applicable to the Police Service Commission, and all the other commissions remain intact when it comes to independence and insulation from political interference, etc. And there was that incident because of that. In 2010, 2011 or thereabout, I expressed some concerns about the structure of the executive of the police service at that time. And I said that that is something that needs to be addressed. And as a result of that, I was branded with all sorts of names. And the Prime Minister went to the then President, the head of state, and I was summarily fired. I took the matter to court, and I was what I would say, I cleared my name, and that dismissal was declared by the court to be unlawful. So that is I make mention of that just to indicate the extent of where political influence and political interference can be regarding these service commissions, and more particularly the one that we are discussing today.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And even
sorry, I want you to repeat for clarity purposes. You made the point that the Police Service Commission is in a special category in terms of political appointments to the position. Repeat that so that our listeners can get a full appreciation of the Service Commission, the Police Service Commission, as opposed to the other commissions.
There are 2 points I would like to make with respect to that. One is that in any democracy, you need an independent police service. That's the first thing. The second thing is that the police service is a very unique body in that the original intention of such a body in our society was to have it preserved as a paramilitary organization. It is not a public service unit as such. It is a paramilitary organization. And because of interference over the years, starting perhaps in 1970 or thereabout, you see that we transformed the police service into a branch of the public service. And a number of fallouts have taken place as a result of that over the years. And that is why today we are in a situation where the selection of a police service, a commissioner of police, has become such a complicated and a tedious exercise that we seem never to be able to get it right. And we are not paying attention to that. Mm-hmm. When you invited me to come on this program today, what I thought about is to find a few anecdotes that will give our listeners an idea of what transpired in the years gone by, to show some of the incidents that have taken place, which lent to the weakening of the image of the police service and the efficiency of the police service.
Okay, just before you go into them, I am very happy that we are talking not in only in theory, but in terms of actuality, and we're going to chat with that and ask you about that in a moment. But let me welcome to the program former police commissioner Stephen Williams, perhaps the individual who can say the most about this acting position and its impact not only on the commissioner, the acting commissioner, but on the service generally. Mr. Williams, you are here. I see your name is up there on the screen. Are you hearing us? I think your microphone is off. Is he there,
Yeah,
Chalo?
yeah,
You can help him with
he's there.
something.
His microphone and the camera is off.
Okay. So, Mr. Williams, if you're hearing us, you need to unmute your microphone so that we can hear you. I trust that you are hearing us. All right. Charles, going to work with him to
Yes,
see how
yes, yes.
that is. Did I hear him a moment ago?
No, that's me talking. I will try and see what I can do.
All right. See what you can do in the meantime that we continue with this. So we are talking about the Police Service Commission. We're talking about the appointment and election of a police commissioner, and Nizam Mohammed, who is a former chairman of the commission, and he related his own experiences in the position. I remember I don't remember all of the details, but I remember the incident and your tenure very well in the difficult situation. You were going to tell us something about, or maybe you should tell us something about the difficulties which operate in terms of the commission. At one point in time, the commission had to hire external assistance to go through the list of persons who have been put forward as possible commissioners, and there were a lot of difficulties. Did those things interfere with the smooth selection of a commissioner?
I think that the present situation is very, very complicated, convoluted, and it creates a lot of problems. And that has come about as a result of the changes that were made to the law regarding these appointments at the executive level of the police service. This happened in 2006. Now, the the point is that prior to that, the Police Service Commission will conduct interviews with whatever assistance it thought best in the circumstances and so on. And they will make their recommendations. And the Prime Minister had the power of veto regarding their recommendations. However, in 2006, that changed. And they are now hired since then. Like when I was there in 2010, for example, before I assumed the position of chairman of that commission, there was the selection of a police commissioner and a deputy commissioner. And that was done by a foreign firm that was hired for the purpose. So that at the time when I assumed that position, that exercise was already completed. It was only a matter for the commission under my chairmanship to bring in two Canadians. You remember the names, Iwatsky and the gentleman who was the commissioner. Two of them who were Canadian nationals. I can tell you that our local senior police officers were not very happy, a number of them. They were not very happy with that kind of result and that kind of arrangement. But what I did was in order to assuage that kind of feeling of discontent, was to assure them that if we can utilize their services to assist in, in the establishment of some internal system within the police service, and we can use that as a foundation for building. And by the time that we would have utilized their services and they are gone, we would be back to having our aspirants within the police service, be treated fairly and have their expectations fulfilled as career police officers. And I thought that that was only fair to the police service. However, the interference, as I call it, continued. And as a result of that, their tenure was short-lived. I think they were contracted for 3 years, and after 2 years, they were paid off and they were sent back home. But that remained, that remained. Nobody actually explained until this day what actually transpired with respect to the completion, or rather the
non-completion, if you like.
Non-completion. They were sent home before their time was up, before their contract period.
Right. I see on the screen now we have Stephen Williams, who we talked about a moment ago. He acted in the position, and I think I used the word or the phrase, he had the unenviable record of lasting a whole long time. I think it was 6 years, 6 years, in the position of acting commissioner. Mr. Williams, thank you for joining us this afternoon.
So, Fraser, good afternoon. And thank you very much for the invitation. Good afternoon to you, Mr. Mohammed.
A very good afternoon to you, sir. Nice seeing you.
Yes, pleasure here too.
Okay, and you've heard Mr. Mohammed has gone through the introduction. Let's hear from the former acting commissioner. Mr. Mohammed talked about all of the difficulties, the complications, the political interference, and so on and so on and so on, and his view of the process of getting to put someone in place to be accepted or not accepted. At one point in time was by the Prime Minister, next time it was by the entire House of Representatives. It was the House and not the full Parliament, not the Senate, if I remember correctly. So, Mr. Williams, tell us how, what were your feelings going through that, I call it a torture of selection or non-selection, acting, not acting, etc., etc. Give our listeners the whole expression of your feelings.
Well, I call it a life lesson. One of the things I learned very early in my policing career, that there are two key offices that you need to appreciate, that you will have challenges to be appointed to. It will not necessarily be limited to your capacity. It From joining the organization, I knew that the offices of deputy commissioner and commissioner were in fact impacted by the government of the day, and especially the prime minister. In the past, the prime minister had the veto power in relation to appointment by way of the constitutional amendment in 2006. It was then made available to, I would call it, the party in power, who would have had the majority sitting in the House of Representatives, with the authority to basically endorse who shall be appointed commissioner of police. It actually made the work of the Police Service Commission almost ineffective, because after the Service Commission would have done its assessment of candidates and select individuals based on all the listed criteria and processes, it comes down to the House of Representatives, where the the government generally had the majority, and they will determine. In the case of, rather interestingly, a merit list of 4 persons in 2018, the number 4 person was selected by the government of the day. That's so crazy that when you talk merit, merit is from number one, two, three. Number 4 was selected because that was government's choice. So they have totally politicized the organization by way of the changes that took place in 2006. And instead of moving forward and improve it, if the question of the veto power of our prime minister was not the best thing, they made it worse. It made it so bad that today a person sitting in the seat of commissioner of police cannot leave this country to go on a course, a program, a conference, anything like that, without the involvement of the House of Representatives to approve somebody to act in that person's position. That is so crazy. It's the only office that has that kind of implication. Not even a chief justice has to face that. So the organization, the police service, everybody speak about the police service, but the police service has been set back by involvement of the politicians, maybe with good intention, but there is the saying, sometimes good intention actually is on the road to hell. So um, this might be one such demonstration of having good intention leading you to the on the road to hell.
Right. Mr. Williams, let me ask you one argument that has certainly been made by different politicians and prime ministers and so on is that um, it is so, meaning that the government has to have a say because the government inevitably gets blamed for a crime situation, for the work or the lack of work of the police service. Their argument, not mine. And therefore, it must be that the government in office must have a say in who gets the job of commissioner of police. Do you buy that argument?
There might be, I would say, some rationale with a thinking like that, but having a say is different to taking a decision which overturns all the work that the body, which is constitutionally provided for appointing a commissioner of police, for that work to go to naught. Because when a service commission is given the authority to appoint a commissioner of police, and they go through the process, all the interviews, assessment, background check, and everything else, if government is to have a say, it must be on the basis of reasonableness and fairness. And you cannot now say, I have a say, and everything that you did, it comes to naught. That cannot be the say. The say must be consistent with identifying, well, in this whole setting, this person that you select, there are things which you did not pick up. This person is involved in crime. This you miss all this. The person, so there must be those kind of high impacting negativities which will now, I will say, default that individual. And that is how I see having a say.
Mr. Mohammed.
I agree totally with Commissioner Williams, and I want to make a distinction between interference and involvement. Interfering means that you undermine the work of the Police Service Commission. You have you have taken away the independence of that body, which is so critical to its functioning. And I agree with him in that regard. But there can be political involvement to answer your query or your argument, where the buck stops with the government, and more particularly the Ministry of National Security. So if the government has to account for the overall security situation in our country, they must be satisfied that whatever is done properly and with effectiveness in mind, efficiency in mind. So I believe that there ought to be a distinction between the government's involvement and the government's interference. What Commissioner Williams is talking about is that the independence of the Police Service Commission is no longer there in practical terms because the politicians have taken over everything. Nothing in this country is working properly, right? And I hope that your good self and Sir Charles one day will start talking about the need for constitutional reform. But I say no more on that. Just to focus on what we are doing at this moment. There is need for a serious look at what happened in 2006 and what obtained prior to 2006 to see how we can avoid the interference by the political directorate of the country. It is not a nice thing for police executives. They don't reach there overnight, right? That has to do with lifetime careers. And when they reach there, they have to listen to people who are sitting in the House of Representatives and perhaps making all kinds of allegations about them, and they are in no position publicly, as a matter of public record, and they are in no position to defend themselves. They are at the mercy of the politicians. And we all know that politicians always have, in developing countries particularly, we always have an axe to grind, so to speak. We are not, we have not convinced the public that as politicians, we are not biased, we are not prejudiced, we are not one-sided, that we are fair to everybody concerned. And we seem to be, we seem to have lost that kind of approach in the governance of our country. And the police service is where we are to start to reform what obtains at present. As I was saying before Commissioner Williams came on, I want to make just two short points. I have one or two little anecdotes that I have taken from the biography of former police commissioner of police Eustace Bernard. Yes, you know, he did his biography in 1991, and short things that I hope we will get the time for me to read, so that, you know, our listeners can recall some of the things that have happened, you know, over this period of time. The second point I want to make very quickly is that I was in the chair, and we had 2 weeks before the two Canadians had to come down to Trinidad to take up their positions. And I wanted someone who would prepare for a reception for them, in the sense that, you know, we welcome them and we have them properly accommodated in their offices, etc. I'm not talking about physically. I'm talking about, you know, relationship amongst personnel within the police service. And as I said, there was some disenchantment at the level of the executive of the police service, and it was Commissioner Williams who willingly, right, took that responsibility. And to my mind, that was something that was very critical, that transition that was taking place. And he was the one who saw it through, took up the mantle of responsibility and saw it through for us, right? And when I saw he was acting for 6 years and so on, I was tempted, but I did not interfere. I felt that at the end of his tenure, there should be a special act of parliament, right? Enabling legislation in parliament to have Commissioner Williams be afforded every benefit as that of a commissioner of police rather than an acting commissioner. I found that to be very, very unfair. I didn't interfere, and I hope that that was sorted out and he didn't go home, with that title, acting commissioner, with no benefits of the actual work that he had done.
We're going to get Mr. Williams in a moment. Just to inform our listeners that we are once again talking about this whole business of the appointment of a commissioner of police and all of the difficulties associated with it, and of course the business of the commission, the police service commission, making appointments. We had one recently a couple of years ago, and there was a whole lot of talk about who entering the president's house and all kind of tralala associated with it. And we have two persons, Nizam Mohammed, a former chairman of the Police Service Commission, and as he rightly said a moment ago, a man who went through the turmoil of 6 years of acting. Could have gone to, I don't know if you applied to Hollywood there after Mr. Williams' position. A side joke here and there. But give our listeners an appreciation, Mr. Williams, of the turmoil and the difficulties you experienced in that period of acting. Why you were not appointed? How did you perform in that role? What was the relationship between you and the commission, you and the government, etc., etc.? Spill the beans, as it were. Tell us all about it.
But I just want to put on record that at the point of retirement, cabinet did in fact provide me with an ex gratia payment for the 6 years of acting in the office of commissioner. So I received an ex gratia payment for those 6 years. However, I did not receive my retirement benefits at the level of a commissioner, right? But on record, cabinet gave an ex gratia payment for the 6 years that I would have acted. They gave me an ex gratia payment for those 6 years, right? I always take the positive out of every situation, and one of the positive that I take out of the situation is that I had the distinction of leading the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, whether acting or not. I had the distinction of leading the police service within the recent history of it for a period longer than most other individuals. 6 years is longer than most of the persons who would have led the organization within its recent history. So I'm thankful for the opportunity that was given to me. However, I think that whole situation in relation to the police service and the focus of government has to be given, I would say, government has to rethink its approach to the police service. The whole society has great demands for policing, but yet the things that you find by way of the governmental action are generally turning out to be more detrimental than beneficial. And that must be given a comprehensive review. I heard recently Professor Ramesh Devsaran, who would have led the Police Service Commission as its chairman, indicating that they did a review of the system, and he's either chaired or co-chaired a committee somewhere around 2014 or around there, and they made recommendations for improvements. I don't know what are the specific recommendations, but he made suggestions recently that he's hoping that the new government can revisit those recommendations, because those recommendations would have been made somewhere around the coming close to the end of the Honorable Kamala Prasad Bissasa's government of 2010 to 2015. She's now back as Prime Minister. So he made the point that there are some key recommendations for which some of her ministers, including her Attorney General, would have been part of a committee making those recommendations. I don't know what they are, but I'm hopeful that something happens by way of revisiting, so that it can bring greater efficiency and effectiveness to the issue of appointments and acting appointments as relates to the police service. Because right now it's really, really chaotic. Um, there has been a recent uh, commissioners conference, maybe a week or two ago. And in light of a change in government, I didn't expect, well, the commissioner would have gone, but at least a deputy commissioner should have attended that conference. But if that had to be done, there would have been a gap in relation to one of the offices, because nobody would have been able to act, because the service commission would not have been empowered to appoint somebody to act in place of that person going to the conference. And I'm saying that is what they have brought the police service to. The Chief Justice is flying out to a conference. In no time, the president will facilitate the acting appointment of acting Chief Justice. There's a student is leaving the country. We do in fact know the president of the Senate will act for the president. That everything is smooth in relation to so many offices, but not with the police service. And I'm saying there is no reason why any government should not be seeing the wisdom in bringing that level of speed and efficiency to the leadership positions in the police service. So I'm hoping that some change will take place in the near future.
Something has happened that perhaps should provide us with some measure of hope. The Minister of Homeland Security is a gentleman who has come, like you. He has come from the bosom of the police service, and he would obviously, I think he was a senior when he resigned recently. He was a senior superintendent, so that he would be fully aware of all of the problems that are being experienced at present, and perhaps he might be in the best position, if he is properly advised, that he should take the initiative on behalf of the government, and he should actually take up the suggestion that you are now making, and that is to say that attention has to be paid as a matter of urgency. Whatever we have in the cupboards, produced by Professor Deusaran and whoever and whatever, put all these things together and come up with something that can give the impression that we are actually reforming the operations of the police service generally. But, talking about inefficiency in the police service, it is another subject. And I have this at the appropriate time. I want to read just, 2 or 3 paragraphs of what is contained. I know that Commissioner Williams was at one time head of the Social and Welfare Association of the Police Service. But there was someone before him. I think his name was Inspector Arno. And it was in his time that they broached the subject of introducing the 40-hour work week for police, for members of the police service. And Commissioner Eustace Bernard, he did a chapter, and the heading of the chapter was Commissioner Williams, the beginning of the end of police efficiency. And
Well,
I would definitely disagree with that a 40-hour work week is the beginning of the end of police efficiency. I've done research. When I attended Bramshill Training College in the UK, my research paper was in fact on the very said issue of resource management, focusing on the issue of the shift systems and the flexibility around shift systems built on the very premise of a 40-hour work week. And I'm saying that is not the beginning to the end of efficiency in the police service. The police service has to live its game. It has to live its game.
Are you saying that the introduction of a 40-hour work week in the police service did not affect the police service negatively?
Well, we have to understand why the police service was affected negatively. You see, it's not the mere 40-hour work week. To have the 40-hour work week, there must be the accompanying issue around what is the adequate number of officers that should be assigned to a police service as the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. And the best deployment of that manpower, taking into consideration key factors such as persons have issues of vacation leave, there will be the implication of sick leave, there will be requirement for persons to be attending court. How can we get the best out of the resources that and that's why I speak about resource management becomes critical. So it's not merely having a 40-hour work week. 40-hour work week for me is an important feature in modern day organization.
Well, I sat opposite to Selwyn Richardson, deceased, at one time in the Parliament, and he bemoaned the fact that we had gone into this 40-hour work week. He described the police service as a paramilitary organization. And I remember him giving the example, here it is, you have police men in the middle of some critical investigations taking place, and they could just walk off because of their 40-hour work week arrangement, and they can go on their own, walk off their investigations, and they can go, and that particular break can effectively sabotage whatever is being done with respect to solving a particular crime. And this gave the public the impression that the police service was being was losing its image as a paramilitary organization, and it was becoming as a branch of the public service.
Well, again, you see, I am in a unique position. I am a very unique position, quite distinct from many persons. There are few persons who be in the position I hold. I hold a unique position because I've done the research, I've studied it, I've done the research. I also am in a unique position to have a full appreciation of what is required for bringing efficiency and effectiveness to the police service. And when someone makes a statement like the one you described, that the then Minister Selwyn Richardson would have made, again, that is, for me, where I sit, it is a ridiculous statement to make, because he is failing to appreciate the whole responsibility around the issue of the well-being and wellness that goes with a worker, like a police officer. Now, if you're thinking about a police officer as a robot, then he can work until it's shut down. But in order to get a level of sustainability of an individual, we have to look at the balancing factor And the balancing factor means that there must be time for work and time for rest. And within modern day organization, 40-hour work week doesn't mean that an officer could just walk out on an investigation, because the organization is not shaped like that. There are regulations which will debar that from happening.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, sometimes when people make statements to emphasize their point, not you, Mr. Mohammed, you are describing a statement made by Mr. Richard. So I'm speaking about his statement and not your statement. I'm speaking about his statement, and I'm saying such a statement taken in a loose way, it is a ridiculous statement.
But what do we have? What do we have at present? What is the what kind of statistics we have relating to the solution of crime in the country? Is it something that is acceptable, or is it something of great concern? This is what has resulted in such a situation actually prevailing at the present time.
I surely will allow Mr. Williams to respond to that, but
But I wanted
just
to touch on one thing, Mr. Fraser. One thing, because Mr. Mohammed made a very important point I wanted to touch on. The police service, I would say, is in a very fortunate position to have Minister Alexander sitting as the Homeland Security Minister. We have never had such a situation where a senior officer has moved to head the ministerial portfolio which covers the police service. So I'm saying that the organization should benefit in a significant way from his involvement as the head of that ministry responsible for the police service. And the point in relation to so many things that he can bring to bear on the improvements, I am very, very optimistic about that. So I just wanted to make that point. I support the statement made by Mr. Mohammed that there is tremendous opportunity for the future in light of the police service having Mr. Alexander as the Minister of Homeland Security.
But you know, I have a point that I wanted to make when Mr. Mohammed made that statement. Something that he knows very well, that you have somebody who was in the police service and would have the experience, etc., etc. But politics in a cabinet is a very different story. And people can overrule the head of the cabinet or indeed other members of the cabinet who are not disposed to that kind of thinking can intervene. So it's what I'm saying, it's not a straightforward situation that Mr. Williams or anyone else with the police experience can get his or her way done because of the police. The politics comes into it and plays a significant part. Mr. Mohammed has been in politics for a long time. Go ahead.
But what I wanted to share with you, Mr. Fraser, is that your point is well taken. Is well taken. But the situation today is one which brings with it a tremendous opportunity, because the government has listed the addressing of crime as one of its top priority. So if the addressing of crime is one of its top priority, then the Minister of Homeland Security must be able to benefit from that top priority by bringing to bear on the cabinet key recommendations for improvements and solutions to the crime problem.
And there is where I would suggest that the fourth estate comes in, that is to say, the media. And these are early days for a new government giving a public commitment with respect to the problem of crime in the country. The media, with public-spirited individuals, you have mentioned Professor Dale Saran and some report that is lying somewhere in some cupboard and so on. We have, I believe, since we are addressing, we are asking ourselves, in this program about solutions to some of these problems that we are identifying. I am suggesting that what has to happen is that the media has to facilitate the development of public opinion with respect to the burning issues and the most urgent ones. For example, the crime situation, which will take into account reform of the police service to cater for a more efficient police service delivery. And we can go to other areas as well. But I also want to point out, you disagreed with this, or rather, you are saying that the 40-hour work week is something that has to do with proper industrial
work-life balance.
Yes,
It's of
that kind of
health and well-being for the
yes.
officers as human beings is a critical component in modern day organizations.
Yes, but Tony, I would like to just quickly read how Commissioner Eustace Bernard felt about this. Can I just
Okay, sure. Go ahead.
In the police service, unlike other sections of the public service, there was prior to 1971 no limit to the hours of duty a policeman was required to work. A policeman was available for duty once he was in the station, and he was required to be there unless he was given leave, which was granted only when there was an adequate reserve. So it was not unusual, even as late as the time of my assumption of duty as Commissioner of Police, that the abstract of duty kept at each station averaged a 68-hour work week. The Police Association, in an effort to equate the police work week with those of public servants, got cabinet approval for the reduction of the number of hours of work per week. The publication in the Gazette giving effect to this was number 4471. It provided for a 44 work week from 1st April 71 and a 40-hour work week from January 1972. The numerical strength of the service was clearly not sufficient to enable it to work a 44-hour work week and to render an efficient 24-hour service to the public. To reduce public police working hours to 40 per week was therefore looking for even greater chaos. The Commissioner of Police was not consulted before the agreement with the Police Association led by its General Secretary Inspector of Police Rupert Arrow. However, before publication of the relevant regulations, the Minister of National Security, George Chambers, discussed the matter with me. I strenuously objected to the 44-hour work week, pointing out the detrimental effect it will have on the availability of policemen at stations, their presence on the streets, and the capability of the police to respond to calls. I also told Mr. Chambers that I was aware that the police should have reduced working hours and suggested a 54-hour work week, and that each policeman be paid for the extra hours. Mr. Chambers appeared to be impressed and said he would convey my views to the cabinet. We are now talking about cabinet and politics. And 2 or 3 Sundays later, he asked me to meet him in his office at the ministry. When I got there, he was in company with Mr. Teasley Tate, the acting permanent secretary. Mr. Chambers said that cabinet had taken a decision to implement a 44-hour week in the police service. I told him that they would all rue the day. The acting permanent secretary supported me. I believe this reduction in police working hours has been the root cause of police inefficiency. In August 1971, I sent a report to the PS in the Ministry of National Security, drawing to his attention the detrimental effect which the change to the 44-hour week was having on the efficiency, morale, discipline, and esprit de corps of the service. The four essentials, as I termed them. I informed him that on 31st July 71, I sent out a circular to all executive officers and divisional and branch superintendents asking for their assessment of the effect of Regulation 44, that is the introduction of the 44-hour work week. I appended for his information a copy of the circular and photocopies of the reports received. I told him that these reports bore out what I myself had observed. Subject matter of the circular observed over the past 4.5 months. That is, that the regulation had a most detrimental effect on the service insofar as the subject matter of the circular was concerned. The efficiency, the morale, the discipline, and the esprit de corps of members of the police service. That gives you, this is from the mouth of a former commissioner of police at that time, when this 40-hour work week came into force, and they had an opportunity to see how it was working, and those were his conclusions and his observations.
But you recognize, Mr. Mohammed, you recognize that he spoke absolutely nothing about the number of officers in the police service at the point in time, and whether what was required is an increase in the number so that you could have an adequate manpower pool for the police organization to function. When you have people working like he described, that's slavery. That's slavery. An officer in a police station at your disposal to work until whenever you want to work him. That's slavery. So what he's describing is that I wanted to continue to have slavery in the police service. And the decision of cabinet is to break away from modern day slavery and ensure that police officers are treated as human beings. In our regulation today, there is a provision that the whole time of a police officer is at the disposal of the government. So therefore, a police officer can be utilized, not limited to 40-hour work week. But when he's utilized beyond 40-hour work week, he gets what we describe as overtime payment for the additional hours that he works. Yeah. And that is what is missing there. Yeah. So I'm just saying that what is critical, if you're looking at a 40-hour work week and its implication, is about getting the right number of officers in place. The police service has an approved sanction check of 7,884. The organization has not reached that number. So we cannot say if that number will be adequate enough. When you reach that number, the last government talked about recruiting 1,000 officers in 2024, something like that. They did not recruit the 1,000 officers. But if you bring the numbers up to the approved sanction strength of 7,884, and you have the appropriate deployment of officers, managed in an efficient manner, then we can make a determination whether the police service is getting the level of efficiency and effectiveness. And the whole issue about solving crime, it also adds with the police service winning over the public trust and confidence, and the officers being appropriately trained in the conduct of investigation. There are so many things. It will take us hours and hours of discussion to talk about how we bring efficiency and effectiveness to the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service.
All right, gentlemen, I love the interchange between both of you, and that's the purpose of a program like that, not for me to be talking, but rather for the guests to be exchanging their own views on this matter. I love it. But I just want to say something that perhaps In the instance of Mr. Bernard and yourself, Mr. Williams, you are talking past each other in a way that I have an experience that I will relate in a second, that 40 hours or 45 hours or 50 hours does not allow a police officer, say, on the beat making an arrest. My 8 hours or whatever the time is up, and therefore whatever happens to this criminal and this crime, it's not my responsibility anymore. There must be some kind of leeway in between the two things. It seems logical to me, and my
But that is not,
experience.
Mr. Fraser. You just have it wrong. That is not that. That is a layman perspective,
Yeah.
and I'm saying that is not how the thing works. That is not how policing works.
Right.
That police officers walk
You
off the
see,
scene because they reach a certain number of hours and they leave the inquiry.
Okay,
That's not how
but
policing
but
works.
but Mr. Williams, I'm not saying that. You're misunderstanding what I'm saying. I'm saying in between the two positions,
Uh-huh.
there must be some logic involved. And I give you the experience. When I was the news director of Trinidad and Tobago Television, there was to be a what's it called, the CARICOM meeting here in Trinidad and Tobago. I sent a reporter to the assignment, and the Prime Minister was late in coming. And the reporter called me and said, "Well, you know, Mr. Fraser, my time is up, and therefore I can't stay." Well, I had some choice words. I wasn't a great manager in that kind of context. So, how could you walk off on assignment because you can't control the Prime Minister? The Prime Minister is supposed to come at 4 o'clock and he come at 5 o'clock. What are we going to do with that? Leave the assignment not covered? So, I'm saying, and I agree that I take the point of the humanity of the policeman as expressed by Mr. Williams, that he has a family, he has a life, and he can't expect it to be on the job 48 hours and so on. But in between those two things, there must be some leeway for the officer, as you rightly said, Mr. Williams, not to walk off or let go a man. I'm being extreme, of course. Let go a man who is charged for a crime because my time is finished. So what I'm saying, there must be some understanding and practice between the two extremes. Is that something? Let me ask Mr. Williams. Is that something that is exercised in the police service?
Uh, it is exercised to an extent and it is being emphasized right now by the present acting commissioner. I've been involved with some work with the acting commissioner. Actually, he has requested some support from former commissioner Jacob and myself in what is described as the rollout of his strategic plan 2025 to 2027 and the action plan for 2025. And inside there, one of the critical feature that is being brought to bear on the officers, critical feature, is that the officers need to understand that the contemporary approach for policing today is not the individual officer being solely responsible for investigation. He's promoting the team effort. And when you have a team effort, you can in fact have the continuation of an investigation by assignment. You are required to do A, B, and C on the continuation of this investigation. If we reach a point where certain officers cannot continue at this moment, the team, because it is about all of us responsible for making sure our community is safe. There is a crime, we are all responsible for ensuring that this crime is solved. So if you have worked and you've worked for 10, 15 hours, then there is a need for you to have a break. Somebody else will be given the responsibility to continue aspects of that investigation for the purposes of the investigation continuing and not there being a broken position that the investigation stops until you go home and spend your time with your family and come back. or go on your rest days. That's not the principle that is being adopted.
Yeah, surely I take the point that there must be some humanity in all of this because you want the officer for the next day and the following day and the following week and so on. And if you exhaust him or her in a situation, then what will follow will be even more difficult than when it started. Gentlemen, I want to go back to you, Mr. Williams. I know that you don't like the personalized matters and you like to see the bright side of things. But I surely believe that what I am trying to do is to give our listeners an appreciation of the difficulties of an acting commissioner and the life that he lived in the position. And you did not respond to that question some time ago, but I want to take you back to it to give our listeners an appreciation that it's not a question simply of not putting an individual in the position of a commissioner, but all of the difficulties involved in that period of time. And you had 6 years of it. Give us an appreciation of that.
Well, I would tell you that it is a challenging issue for a person to be in almost perpetual acting. It's not the best thing for organization and it's not the best thing for an individual. But from a individual perspective, um, I operate in life with a positive mindset. I'm driven by a positive mindset, and I look at things in the context of what is possible, as against what is not possible. So I focus on what I can do when I am in office, as against whether my stay in office is for 5 years, 10 years, until I retire. That is not what it drives me. So it takes the individual to lift himself from whatever he's facing by way of a challenge. So I flip the challenge by using what I describe as a positive mindset, believing in my strength, having confidence in my capacity and capability, and seek to lead an organization. When you're heading the police service, you're leading an organization, one of the most important organizations in Trinidad and Tobago. And you need to give it your best shot. And when you do that, you find that the officers below you see the wisdom in supporting your direction that you set and giving of their best. It's a dynamic thing because you have different officers at different levels of engagement. Some officers are highly committed, self-motivated, energized, willing to commit. There are others who are laid back. Some are basically dysfunctional. But you have to be able to seek out getting the best out of your organization as a leader. And that is what I sought to do. And I enjoyed my stay in the police service. Even today, I have I have the benefit, and I tell my wife all the time. Every time I engage with officers in the police service, somebody comes and share with me a story of what I would have done to touch their lives, and for me that is so satisfactory because I know for a fact I've made a difference, a positive impact on the lives of individuals and on the lives of the people in Trinidad and Tobago by the kind of improvements that were made during my time.
So, Mr. Williams, give our listeners an example of where, in what situations that your view on life, this positive view on life, triumphed in the situation as opposed to being negative. I want a real story from you, sir.
Let me share with you something. In I'm taking you back to history. The police service commissioned in its first assessment flowing out of the 2006 constitutional amendment. Its first assessment for the officer commissioner. I was selected by the Service Commission to be appointed Commissioner of Police. 2008, I was 47 years old at the point in time, not yet 48. I'm sharing this with you to let you know that the government of the day wanted. So I'm not saying what I hear somebody say. I'm saying the head of the government actually told me. So they wanted somebody who is not within the police service at that point in time, was not within police service, and who was not a local police officer to be appointed commissioner of police. Fortunately or unfortunately, I topped that process. A process which would seem to be biased towards having somebody from a foreign country lead the police service. The team responsible for the assessment process was Penn State University. The assessors were all from Canada and the US and other countries. Not a single assessor from the Caribbean. That process, I topped it. What I learned from all that is that we, citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, we don't appreciate the capacity of our own. And the police service it continues to struggle because politicians form opinions not by way of their expert knowledge, by way of their perceptions. And then they take decisions which turn out not to be in the best interest of the country. And I always remember meeting after the announcement by the Service Commission, because it was announced publicly at what was then, I think, Holiday Inn Hotel off Rice Road. And I met Mr. Hilton Guy. And he knew what he was saying. I don't know why. But he died without explaining to me why he said what he said. Mr. Hilton Guy, who had retired, and he met me at the police sports, and he said, William, I don't want you to be appointed commissioner of police at this moment. Now I felt a little bit, if you can call it, shaken by this statement. Because why does a guy who knows me so well, know my capacity, would say he doesn't want me to be appointed commissioner of police at this moment? He went on to say, though, he said, Williams, I'll give you the assurance, you will sit in that seat of commissioner of police, but I don't want you to sit in that seat at this moment. Now, he died, and he never told me why. I gave myself, after the fact, when the government took their decision in Parliament not to approve my appointment. And for one thing, I told my wife, if it's one thing I was happy about, is that they never chose at that moment to say things which were false about me. They chose a particular pathway to focus on nullifying the process, but they never chose to say negative things in real sense of the word about me. And I was happy because I know you can say things in Parliament, under the cover of Parliament, and then I have no recourse. Right? That experience taught me certain things. It taught me that as an individual, you have control over certain things and you don't have control over other things. The things that you have control over, you give that your best shot. The things that you don't have control over, don't spread over it. And I've lived my life throughout that very said way. The things I don't have control over, I don't fret over it. I didn't have control over whether I sit as commissioner or deputy commissioner or any office, but I knew for a fact what I had control over. I had control over my honesty and integrity. I had control over my dedication to providing quality policing service to Trinidad and Tobago. I had control over the way that I carry myself and set the example for other officers. I had control over all those things. And those things that I had control over, I delivered to the best of my ability.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Tony,
yes.
just allow me,
Sure.
you know, I'm listening to the humility of Commissioner Williams, you know, in his remarks. In 2008, Commissioner Williams was selected as Commissioner of Police after he was assessed and found suitable by Penn State University. That is 2008. And he was acting superintendent of police. And that was at the age of 47.
No, I was at the point of selection. I had reached the rank as senior superintendent. I applied as superintendent, and then when the process was completed, I was a senior superintendent.
So you were senior superintendent.
Yes.
Even so, you were not appointed commissioner of police.
No.
Because there were others who perhaps were senior to you in service, but when it came to suitability and efficiency, etc., the assessors thought that you would have been the person to be the commissioner of police. Not so?
Yes, among the bulk of candidates were foreign.
And the bulk of candidates were. What troubles me is about this thing about a head of of one of these governments saying that they want someone outside of Trinidad and Tobago to lead the police service. And here is where the politicians, starting from way back in 1970, I wanted to make that point, that how you were assessed by Penn State University, because I do not think in your humility you would want to tell us that. I am putting in that. And you were suitable for the job. But I think we have come to the point, my friend, that, Tony, that what has happened, what we are hearing here shows the dangerous level of political interference in the police service. And we go way back to 1970, when this thing became so prevalent. And I have one or two little stories here as well that I pulled out from the memoirs of Bernard. But what I want to say is that what Commissioner Williams is actually saying is that I think that his stint as head of the Police Service Welfare Association make him sound a little bit as a trade unionist. But I appreciate policemen and women in the police service must be treated as human beings and have decent living and working conditions, etc. However, how much do we sacrifice the image and the structure of the police service being a paramilitary organization? And that is what has troubled a lot of people since independence coming down to now. How do we preserve that image, and how do we exclude the politicians and make the police service a police service of professional people? Those are the two burning questions that lie at the very foundation of this sordid situation in which we have found ourselves in our country today with respect to the efficiency of the police service and the state of crime in the country. And that is what our listeners are concerned about.
Right. And I can assure you and you better start preparing, both of you, for my ultimate question is that given all that has been said and all of the difficulties with the politics involved, and the other side that politicians make the argument that they're responsible for crime in the society, and therefore they must have some sense of a say in these matters. But where I'm going to end is to ask both of you gentlemen, Nizam Mohammed and Stephen Williams, as to how do we go forward in terms of selecting a commissioner, electing, whatever the factor is, and how do we make the service more capable of dealing with what I consider to be one of the two major difficulties of the society. The economy remains tied to energy, and crime is making its play in the country. But before we go there, I just want to indicate to our listeners that we are talking with Nizam Mohammed, who is a former chairman of the Police Service Commission, and Stephen Williams. And we heard quite a lot about Stephen Williams this afternoon. Incidentally, Stephen Williams, I've never heard you so agitated as you have been in the last half an hour or so. I think the statement by one of your predecessors really got you going on that, and that is wonderful. And including your statement about the particular situation of being selected by the Police Service Commission or whoever. I think you said it was a foreign commission.
Penn State University.
Yeah. And your reaction to that. But I want to call Sir Charles in at this point, just to give our listeners an appreciation of the station, where they can go to hear it, and so that we continue to reach more people all over the place. Sir Charles?
Yeah, all right. Okay, no problem. Tony, so remember, it is New Era TT Radio. And all you have to do, if you put in your browser, once you put in New Era TT Radio or New Era Radio, you will get it in your browser. You will see most of the links there for the website, for our Facebook link, for our YouTube platforms. You will also see we are also on TuneIn for people with their iPhones, like Mr. Williams. All right, and the Alexa apps and stuff. Look for New Era TT Radio, and you will get us across most of those browsers. And we are also streaming together with METV in our morning show between 6 and 8 a.m. on METV, and that the Flow channel, the Amplia channel, most of the cable channels, we stream there during the morning also. So you can find us. Very easy.
And that should help even people who are techno challenged like myself. You could just put on your phone and get to the station.
That is it.
And make life simple, right, Charlo?
Yes. And once you get it, what you can do, if, as I say, if Tony says that a little tech challenge, once you
not a little challenge,
right. So you get somebody who are around you, who knows how their way around the phone, and let them put it on your desktop for you. Once they pin it to your desktop, you open it just like how you open WhatsApp or your Facebook or any other app. They can pin it to your home screen, and you can find us very easy.
Wonderful. Okay, so we go into the essentially last question I have for our two guests, Nizam Mohammed and Stephen Williams, both persons who were deeply involved. Mr. Williams has been acting commissioner for a long period, and someone who spent a long time, his career in the police service. And Nizam Mohammed, who was the chairman of the Police Service Commission at one point in time. And remembering, of course, Mr. Mohammed, I remember him very well as a firebrand politician in the parliament in the old days with Basdio Pandey. He wasn't easy at all. Even when he got into the chair as Speaker of the House of Representatives, I remember, Mr. Mohammed, you telling the then Prime Minister, Mr. Robinson, you should take your seat. You remember that? All right, so gentlemen, we go into the last part of this program, where we talk about possibilities for dealing with the difficulties that are very obvious in terms of electing, whatever the term is, a police commissioner. The Prime Minister, the just come into office Prime Minister, has made a statement that the time is too short to make any transformation of the system, but she made it clear that a commissioner is going to be elected, however the process goes in the not too distant future. So we hope that that comes true, and the incumbent does not have an extended period acting in the office. Who wants to go first? Let me hear Mr. Williams as to.
Can I make a suggestion before we go
Sure.
to Williams? Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I believe that we've got to revisit the legislation of 2006. But before Mr. Williams speaks, I have an idea as you are raising this very, very important question now. I think that we still have use in this country for Mr. Williams. And I think Commissioner Williams should take the initiative, consider taking the initiative of putting a few of us together. I'm willing to serve. And it is a voluntary kind of thing that I am thinking about. And he should take the initiative and pull a few of us together where we can have some discussions like what we are having here, the questions that you are posing. What are the solutions to the problems? And if we can pull a few people together under his leadership, we can seek an audience with our current commissioner of police. I beg your pardon, our current minister of defense. Is it that or Homeland Security?
Homeland
Homeland. Yeah, we are now getting used to these
Terms.
terms. Yes, and Commissioner Williams can perhaps arrange for us as a delegation to visit the Minister of Homeland Security and have a discussion with him. And after we have distilled some ideas, we go to him and we gratuitously, for the sake of our country and for the sake of our police service, and we present to him some suggestions. Whatever he wants to do with them, it will be a matter for him. I think that civil society has to help whichever government that is in place. And we both agree, all of us on this program, we agree that we have a really wonderful opportunity to, and we are very fortunate to have someone in the chair as Minister of Homeland Security who knows the ropes, so to speak. And I would like for Commissioner Williams to consider that suggestion. Thank you for allowing me to butt in, sir.
Right. And what I can say is that something like that will attract our attention. Indeed, that you will have reporters flying all over the place attempting to get the story from you. So, gentlemen, fix up your business and just tell us, and we surely will be there. Mr. Williams, going forward, what do we do?
Well, I would say that the government, the present government, and the past government, they both have publicly expressed that there is need to change the system of appointing commissioners. So I think that is, in simple language, unless things change, that is clearly already sold. What exactly will be the change? That is not yet known, but I agree that there is a process by which that could also be influenced by people like us. How much the government take of our recommendation and suggestion, will depend on the government of the day. Um, but I agree, we are all patriots, and we have to find ways and means of assisting. Trinidad and Tobago is our country, and to improve Trinidad and Tobago, we all have to put our hands forward and make a difference. And I agree that we have to work together and do some things which can benefit Trinidad and Tobago to improve. The organization TTPS, um, if the government intends to improve uh, the realm of crime control and crime management, um, there will ultimately be the responsibility of government to set in motion what I will describe as a national plan to address crime and also to address the operation of the police service. Police service is responsible for implementing government policy, and if government set its policy, there is no choice. The police service has to implement it, but it must be well informed policy position for the improvement necessary for the country. So that's as far as I would want to share.
Yeah. What
Yeah,
I
we
like, oh,
we
sorry,
started.
before you come in, Mr. Mohammed, what I like about your statement is something that a number of us who write columns and express views and so on have been talking about, certainly myself, is the involvement of people, ordinary people, people with specialist skills and so on, in the governance of the country. Because the culture has been that we elect a government, a party into office, they form the government, and we give them 5 years to do as they choose. And as we've been doing over the last 25 years plus, when we get fed up of them, we vote them out of office in a significant way and insert another party. And 5 years again, and that party goes out. If you check the record from 1981 to the present, that is what has happened. And we've been advocating, a number of people, not only myself, that we have to move people from the margins of the society to get on the field, so that a sort like what you've expressed there, Mr. Mohammed, of people with experience and knowledge coming together and putting forward proposals. I don't see how a government, a sensible government, and then opposition, because the opposition is very much part of the government, could
thinking
resist.
thinking as a politician. And this program, we in this program we started up by actually accepting that the minister is an individual, and the government is another matter, and the cabinet is also another matter, and there are three entities that have to be dealt with. As a politician, thinking as a politician, if we do some voluntary work, as I have suggested, this is going to strengthen the minister's hands with respect to whatever decisions he arrives at. And that is going to take care to some extent of the strength of the voice of the minister vis-a-vis the collective responsibility of the cabinet. And if a cabinet understands that this minister is being motivated by civil society, people who have come voluntarily to him. We are not going to the government, we are going to him. And we are sharing ideas in the most respectful way and so on for his consideration. I believe that is going to set a trend to what you are suggesting, that people have to move from the periphery and get center stage and get involved. We have a wrong approach in our society. That is to say, we vote a government into power and we say, well, we want to see what they will do. You know, that kind of thing. It is as if we have entrusted them with all responsibilities and we have none whatsoever, and they have to work magic. And that kind of approach cannot sustain us in any meaningful way. So I am asking Commissioner Williams. I say most respectfully, I think that he continues to have that kind of image in the country that he has served, and I think the country appreciates all the quote unquote humiliating circumstances that may have surrounded him during his tenure in his last years at the police service. But his was a call to duty, and he actually gave the best of himself. And I believe if he takes that initiative, you see, there is already a connection. There is already a connection. That connection is our current acting commissioner of police is consulting at the professional level and seeking assistance from him and from Jacobs and others. And we can build on that. We can build on that. My idea is not an original idea. The idea is coming from what the acting commissioner of police has started with Commissioner Williams and former acting commissioner Jacobs, which Commissioner Williams mentioned to us. You remember that, Tony, a little while ago.
Yes.
So I am saying that out of this conversation that we are having, we can build on that, and something concrete can come out of what we are actually trying to sift out in this conversation. Because we all of us, we have had no real argument here,
No.
where we are so rigorously opposed to each other. We all accept that we need to reconfigure the police service. We need to have a new image. We need for ideas to come forward. And I feel that those who have been working, and we have mentioned a few names in our conversation here this afternoon, I believe that we can put our heads together voluntarily. All we need is someone to take that leadership position, and I'm suggesting, Commissioner, sir, that you undertake that responsibility.
You know what I think is another element of it. Sorry, Mr. Williams, you wanted to say something there?
No, you go ahead, Mr. Fraser.
I think one of the things that can come out of such an action, such an initiative, is to give people on the sidelines the courage, the sense that they have a responsibility in terms of fashioning policies and programs for the government in office. Because we know what the political culture is that you join a party based on tribe and affiliation and all of those nonsensical things which do not move the whole country forward. And you wait for the party and the government to do what it chooses to do, and all we can do is complain. Call the radio stations and spill the bile that is in our system, but do nothing about it. So I really like the idea of some action coming out of this situation. Mr. Williams?
Yeah, I'm saying that I fully agree. What is critical for the country is about people recognizing that we all have a role to play. We need to contribute in making Trinidad and Tobago a better place. And we continue to have the loudest voice on the issue of criticizing and complaining. But we have to start to say, listen, Trinidad and Tobago is ours. We have elected members into office by way of our government, and we have to contribute towards the government succeeding in delivering for the country. And that's it. We contribute, give off our best. And I'm sure everyone who contributes will be contributing to making Trinidad and Tobago a better place.
Yeah. Well, gentlemen, thank you very much, Nizam Mohammed, the former chairman of the Police Service Commission, and Stephen Williams, the former acting commissioner, senior officer in his up the ranks, and for your conversation this afternoon and giving us an insight into what transpires or what has transpired over the decades with regard to the putting a commissioner in place. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Sir Charles.
Okay, no problem. Thank you very much, Tony, and thank you very much, gentlemen, for being part of the Drive Time Exchange right here on Near Era TT Radio. Coming up at 6 o'clock, David Mohammed with the Black Agenda.
Back in 68, when I start to sing calypso, I used to shoot straight. All my enemies I killed slow. I would shoot right and left. Big shot men met their death. But this year, when the season came, I had planned to leave the game. Well, as man, I hung up my guns. I had planned. My career was done. Goodbye, fans. Chalky will teach the younger ones. But when Mr. Fool was stopped for charges laid by a cop, and she get away, I said, And when the border tell Ivan Williams to go, I get sane, and I put on the guns again.